Welcome everyone to the Aging Games. I am so excited today to have my friend finally, Kate Lewin, on the show with us. And she's our resident lympho. And you guys will understand why I'm saying that. Kate, welcome to the Aging Games. So nice to have you here.
Oh, how wonderful to be here. Thank you, Lynn. This is an awesome opportunity. I'm so excited. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here, Kate. And will you at first please tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're helping people?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a lymphatic practitioner. That has a whole different myriad of terms. Essentially, I specialize in the malfunction of lymphatics. So that's my day job, helping people who have either primary or secondary lymphedema. So primary refers to people born with malfunction in their lymph, and that can be, due to congenital issues, hereditary issues. There's a whole list of things. And secondary lymphedema is generally when someone has contracted, say, for instance, not contracted, someone has got cancer and they've had a node dissection, and then there's been a malfunction in their lymph flow. So you might see people, ladies who've had breast cancer and they have a very swollen upper limb. Some people might, there might a pelvic cancer or a vulvar cancer, and they have a lower leg limb lymphedema. So that's what I do clinically. I'm a nurse slash psychologist slash lymphatic practitioner. So it's kind of a holistic aspect. So we just don't treat lymph. We look at diet. We look at motivators, exercise, because unfortunately it's not curable, lymphedema. Once you've got it for life. So it's a very costly chronic illness to manage. So there's a holistic aspect of it. So that's the small space.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the holistic approach to anything, because, as humans, we need to be looked at as a whole, and any kind of health condition need to be treated accordingly. So I really appreciate that is your approach to this type of situation. Now, I love your posts on Instagram. We will link your handle below so people can also follow you. And I love your posts and the instructional videos and everything that you do. And recently you had like a viral video when you were talking about C-sections and the belly that women are often left with after a C-section, and that you were saying that this is actually not fat, but it's lymphatic buildup in this area. And I think people really resonated with this because, I speak with a lot of ladies that are carrying extra weight, and everyone is so concerned about the belly, especially after menopause and everything. And it was so interesting to see this approach, and especially because, like 50% of women are having C-sections. So this is something that a lot of women are dealing with. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What's happening after a C-section?
Yeah, well, C-sections, look, I definitely, I've had 3 myself. So I'm talking about it from lived experience as well. And look, 25 years ago, if I had have had the choice not to have a C-section, I was on the verge of, let's try natural, maybe we'll end up in cesarean section. It was kind of, and it was my first baby. I was terrified. So I went down the C-section route, okay? And it was essentially, if I had known what I know now, I wouldn't have had a C-section. And that reason being is the amount of injury, scar tissue, fibrosis that's caused because of a C-section. They cut into many layers of muscle. The injury to the body is very significant, and we know so much more about our lymphatics nowadays through imaging and research. 25 years ago, even 10 years ago, we don't know what we know now. It's a significant impact on lymphatic drainage, and particularly where they cut women. So the transverse incision that they make is where we call in between the body with the lymphatics, so the drainage that happens, our body's in like cut in half. So parts of the nodes up there drain that part, and there's nodes below that drain the bottom part. Where they cut is right in the pelvic region, near our groin nodes, and essentially all our lower limbs. So from our lower part of our back our midsection, and our lower limbs. So that affects 50% of the drainage of our body. It's significant when you look at it, and that's putting it in its very simplest of terms. When I went to university, we learnt a page of lymphatics, and I look back now in my my bioscience books, which are like this thick.
Yeah.
There's one page on lymphatics.
Incredible.
Students are the same. Physios are the same. Anyone that's in a nat and phys at university are still learning like this much of lymphatics. It's slowly changing, but that post that I put up was really more from lived experience and how I was starting to treat myself, what I was learning and what I've learned over the last 10 years, that, oh my gosh, it's my lower back pain is not caused by what I thought it was caused by, or my little apron and swelling that I have there. It's not really all menopausal or menstrual, or it's my lymphatics.
Wow.
So it was an aha moment. And I thought, yeah, it was essentially people needed to hear about it, thinking not many would really, I don't know, resonate, but let's face it, there's millions of women out there that have cesarean sections. So
absolutely,
it's understandable that everyone's interested.
Of course. Kate, before we go any further, can you explain to us the lymphatic system a little bit? Because maybe people are not that familiar, how it works, why it's important, and its function.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
talk about that a little bit so people understand a bit more.
The lymphatic system has three major functions. One of them helps digest fat-soluble vitamins, minerals, that sort of thing. So we have a lot of nodes in our small intestine and around the area we have abdominal issues. It also transports white blood cells, or in the science term we say leukocytes. They actually kill off parasites, bacteria, abnormal cells. So we all carry cancer cells in our body. So those white blood cells attack cancer cells. So abnormal cells, any metabolic waste that our body no longer needs. So it's essentially our body's sewage system. Yeah. So when I talk about the lymphatic system, I talk about the clean fish tank with a filter, and the fish bowl that's just sitting without a filter. So you can imagine how murky the water gets without the filter versus the fish tank that has the filter and it's clear water. If we're not looking after our lymph system, that's the murky water that occurs. That's the sewage system, the blockage, the pipes need draining. It's essentially our sewage system. It's a really important. Oh, and the third thing, it's our responsible for our immune system, so our immune response. And maintaining our fluid balance. So that they're the two.
It's a pretty important thing, right? To have functioning properly. And yet nobody talks about it. Like you're the only person that I know on Instagram who's speaking about this. The doctors won't talk to you about it. When you go see anyone, it's never mentioned. We're not taught how to, like I've got my dry brush, and that's very popular now. Everyone's dry brushing, but nobody really knows what they're doing or why they're doing it. We just kind of saw it on TikTok, so we start brushing our skin, right? It goes a lot deeper than that.
Well, it carries approximately 15 litres of fluid. So if you think of the circulatory system, it carries 4 to 5 litres. This carries 3 times more fluid around our body. The circulatory system has a pump, which is the heart. So it circulates. It's got that pump mechanism that pumps all, that 4 or 5 litres of fluid. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. So it's expected to pump 15 litres, 3 times more fluid than circulatory system around our body without a pump.
We are the pumps, right?
We are the pumps.
We are the pumps. We need to be pumping.
And if you understand its mechanism by being a sewage system and getting rid of, parasites and viruses and abnormal cells and metabolic waste and toxins out of our body, if both you and I, our lymphatic systems stop working within 24 hours, think about what would happen. We would just build up, be a toxic mess, and we would probably die.
Yeah, yeah. And you see
That's
this
the
happening,
harsh
you know, with
reality.
like terminal cancer. You see people where the fluid just builds up in their bodies
Yep.
and they're not
Yep.
able to eliminate it, and it's pretty much like the beginning of the end. I've seen this happen with
Yep.
my own eyes, and you know,
Yep.
you try to continue to drain the fluids as much as possible, but it just becomes more and more difficult as the body's
Yeah.
shutting down, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the only way we can move it is movement, is exercise, is, and I'm not talking, you know, full on running or anything. It's simple movement. And you look at how sedentary our lives have become nowadays, we're getting actually more problems being detected in our lymphatic system because we're sitting more. You know, everything is automated. We don't have to get up and move as much as what we did. Look at all the jobs that we have now that we sit in front of our computer, and our bodies aren't designed for that. Our bodies are designed for movement. That's where dry brushing comes into the picture.
Yeah.
So it's one simple, easy way everyone can learn, and how, you know, can actually help you know, it's their self-care of their lymphatic system. So the old dry brushing was exfoliating your skin and getting rid of dead skins. It still does that, but it really has a lot more important function, which is that now on Instagram. Yeah.
Also the mini trampoline, the rebounder, right?
Oh, yes, yeah,
I start every
rebound.
morning. I jump out of bed and I jump on my rebounder.
Awesome.
I start about 5 minutes on that. And
and
that
how
can also
good
be
do you
very
feel?
helpful.
Yeah, I've got one in my office, and when I know I've been sitting for any longer than half an hour, or if I've come from a long drive, I get on the rebounder and I jump, and I just feel so much better. My back instantly feels better. It's incredible. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't have a rebounder, can they get up and maybe do like jumping jacks or walking in place, or what can you do in an office setting?
Yeah,
kind of
definitely. Any movement, like, definitely. Any jump. Rebounder is not good for people with any disc degenerative disease, so osteoarthritis or any spinal conditions, because of the compression. So jumping jacks, I wouldn't advise someone of the same to do that. But any bit of movement, absolutely.
As you know, I'm a big fan of exercise snacks. So here's another reason to get up from your desk or the couch and to do exercise snacks, not just for your health, but also for your lymphatic health as well.
Yeah.
It would be super important.
Well, just calf raises, because it's your calf muscle is what we call lymphatic pump. So our lymph pools into our extremities, and if we're not moving, that's where you get the ankle swelling and, you know, the lower limb swelling. So just simple calf raises, that pumps the calf, that pumps the lymph up. So if someone's not into jumping jacks, or you're sitting for a longer period of time, get up and do some calf raises. And
you can do them on the stairs or just standing in place, right?
Yeah, just standing in place, you know, doing some calf raises is a really effective mechanism for lymphatics, because it stimulates that calf pump. Yeah, the calf muscle pump. Yeah.
Can this also help with cramping? Because people get the lower leg cramps. Can the lymphatic fluid be also responsible for the cramping?
Yes. Yeah. Our lymphatics help. Our lymph is supposed to be our fluid balance system as well. So our intracellular and extracellular fluid, when it's working properly, it's taking fluid in and out of our cells, in and around our tissue. So it is responsible for fluid balance. So you look at wherever there's an irregularity with fluid balance, and you might have, you know, cramping, that definitely is a lymphatic issue. Obviously also a diet issue, but there's definitely obviously a fluid imbalance. Yeah, dehydration, you know, hydration is one of the biggest things for lymph. Because our lymph becomes stagnant, and it becomes like that fish tank where you get that skanky water that gets creamy and scaly and thick. That's what happens to lymph when it's stagnant. It actually gets a thicker consistency about it. So that's why I always use the fish tank analogy, because that's exactly what happens to our lymph when we're not moving. And when it's getting stagnant, it becomes like a thicker consistency. Yeah.
That's interesting. And can you actually feel that with your hands? Like if you're massaging someone?
Yes. Someone with severe, or someone with stage 3 or 4 fibrosis and really thick lymphedema limbs, you can definitely, there's definitely a, you know, they get the pitting in the skin.
Yeah.
You can put your thumbprint in and it hits the skin, and you can feel where the heaviness is, if I can use that term.
I totally understand. I have to, after a long flight, you can feel it in your calves, right? Like that kind of feeling when your calves feel heavy.
And you it feels a bit stretched, and it's just that heavy feeling. Absolutely.
Super interesting.
That's exactly it.
Now, getting back to the C-sections. So what you're saying is that a lot of women are actually not carrying fat, but they need more lymphatic drainage. Is there a way to differentiate? Is there a way for them to tell if it is fat or lymphatic fluid that is building up?
Yeah, well, the test that we use is we use lymph scanners. So you can get tested. It is it's not necessary for someone who hasn't got lymphedema. I would just suggest that if you are carrying extra fluid, that you start dry brushing for a month. You will start to see a change in your fluid balance. And then you've already determined, or you've already diagnosed yourself. But if we were to get down to the nitty-gritty and someone wanted to really differentiate fat versus fluid, devices that we use when we're looking at percentage of water versus adipose tissue. But what happens in the lymphatic system as well is when our stagnant lymph doesn't move, it sets down that fibrotic tissue. That fibrotic tissue it starts as fat. So the fat soluble stuff that the lymph's supposed to be doing, dissolving, the fats and the pathways and giving us the nutritional fat, soluble fat, it actually sets itself down into the tissues and causes fibrosis. So it starts off as fat and then ends up being fibrotic tissue. So it's to differentiate fat versus fluid. In someone that doesn't have lymphedema, you start dry brushing for a month. And I absolutely guarantee that you'll notice a change around wherever you're doing. I mean, mainly for women, it's around our hip, lower back, and tummy. I know from lived experience that I'm not as wobbly and I'm not carrying near the amount of fluid that I was 10 years ago. And I haven't changed my diet. I haven't changed my exercise. I've done dry brushing, and I've had 3 cesarean sections, and I was carrying a lot of fluid, thinking it was fat, and my body did change. And it's still changing. I can now tell between the fluid versus, the fat.
That is amazing. Would you recommend for the ladies to dry brush their whole bodies, or to really just concentrate on the abdominal area?
Well, we need to dry brush our whole body because the lymphatic system is one flow. So we're essentially pushing all the fluid towards the direction of the heart. Now, some people will say we're moving it to the heart and the heart's getting rid of it. Technically, the heart's not getting rid of it. The heart's helping pump the toxins and everything out. But anatomically, the heart's not getting rid of it. We get rid of it through the circulatory system, but we're pushing everything towards the direction of the heart. Concentrating on your problem bits, absolutely, but we need to be dry brushing the whole body, starting at our feet and working our way up, because that's the direction that the toxic lymph needs to go, is to be pushed out towards our clavicles. So that's where our terminals are for our lymph. And that's where it meets the circulatory system in this part of our chest. So that's why they say push it all towards.
Brush it upwards, right?
Brush it. Brush it upwards. So lymph only has that one flow. To get rid of it, we're brushing it in that one flow towards the direction of the heart. So full body.
Full body towards the heart. And how long would a session like this take? What do you recommend? Like 5 to 10 minutes or less?
Well, when you get used to the sequence, it's literally 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It's 3 minutes before my shower. Best done naked, because you know, not wanting to do it over clothing. Obviously, my instructional videos are over clothing, but it's best done before your shower.
Yeah.
And the reason being too is once you've stimulated your lymph through the dry brush, you get into the shower, you're sweating a little bit in the shower, you're actually releasing toxins already. So your lymphatic system is not being overloaded by too much toxic stuff. You're actually sweating it out as well. But then I finish off then with a bit of a cold shower.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
That's that immune system response.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Would you do this in the evening or the morning, or does it make a difference?
You can do it as often as you like. I'd do it after exercise as well. It helps with injury management. It helps with getting of lactic acid in your muscles. So eventually I'm going to go down the track and at the moment I'm concentrating on showing people how to dry brush properly, because there's a lot of techniques out there and I go, oh no, that's not the right way. Anatomically, that's not the right way. So I want to show people the right way. Once they get their rhythm, once they understand the sequence and a little bit about the workings of the lymphatic system, they will get their own rhythm and they'll do it in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Down the track, you can do it after you've walked, you can do it after you've gone for a run, you can do it after you've been lifting weights, because it helps with injury management as well and getting rid of that lactic acid. And just helps your body repair a lot quicker.
So like, for example, with the rebounder, would you do the rebounder first and then the dry brushing and then the shower? Would that be a good sequence?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And I mean, if it's 3 minutes, then there's no excuses really for anybody not to be doing this.
That's why I say it's like brushing your teeth. Everyone brushes their teeth morning and night. You don't even think about it. You just do it. So if you can develop this habit in 3 minutes daily, it'll just become like brushing your teeth.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And it's got the most amazing health benefits, like incredible health benefits. I don't want to overload people with too much information, but honestly, it's got the best, amazing health. It's so underestimated. This system that we have in our body is so vitally important, and it's so underestimated. We don't know enough about it. We're still learning more and more about it through imaging. It's incredibly important. And one thing we can do, because it's a superficial, it's easy for us to touch it because it's just under our skin. And dry brushing technique is something that I would love everyone just to go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I dry brush, because for your health, it's incredible.
Now I have this kind of brush, and I know that you use like a rubber or plastic, or I don't know what is it made of. Like in your videos, you're using a different kind of brush. That is maybe more gentle, right?
No, well, the one that I have got is a lady in Australia makes them, and I was trialing it because I do a lot of it while I've got my clothing on. So while I've got my scrubs on, or after I've been for a walk, I'm not stripped down naked, and I'll give myself a quick brush. So it's got rollers on it, and the rollers are for over clothing, and that's also for really good to stimulate and get rid of lactic acid. So I essentially bought it for clothing dry brush. But it's also got this other like silicone rubber that you can use, like a natural bristle brush. I prefer people to start with the natural bristle brush because your skin needs to get used to the dry brushing. If you've never done dry brushing before, your skin does react to it a little bit. It's like, oh, what are you doing to me? So you've got to find your pressure, find your right frequency, and find your right sequence. So no use buying $100 pair of gloves yet. Just go to your department store. You can buy a little silicone one or the dry brush natural one that you've got. They work perfectly normal. And that's what I was using for years and years and years before I bought these other dual green ones. I will bring them out eventually and show people. It helps me do my sequence quicker, but I don't want people to brush it. I want them to get used to just using the dry brush and understanding the flow and the rhythm and also the pressure, because that makes a lot of sense. And it can also be helpful with like the quality of your skin and with cellulite, correct? Like it can actually improve the texture of the skin on your body.
And we're getting ready for bikini season. Summer's around the corner, so it's a good time to start driving.
You guys,
well, you guys have winter.
definitely.
You guys have winter coming here in Australia, but for us,
we're starting to rug up now. But look, lymphatic drainage does improve your skin tone. That's what I say. I never use the cellulite word because people go, "Whoa, you're claiming that it does this for cellulite." It improves your skin tone. It improves the look of your skin. It doesn't cure cellulite. Cellulite has a whole different science behind it, but it does definitely improve your skin tone.
Yeah, you feel it. It's very invigorating on your skin, gets a little bit red and you feel it like coming alive. It's actually a really nice feeling. Now, Kate, we have some questions from followers. Sure. And when I told them I'm going to be interviewing, so let's get into some of those and see what they have to say. So what else does the C-section do to my body as I get older, other than collecting fat? Can it cause any other damage or any other issues as they're getting older?
Well, the scar formation, I mean, just the incision alone into, I think from memory, don't quote me on this, I think it's close to 7 layers of muscle that they cut into.
I know as well, 7 layers,
into the uterine wall, through the muscle and then into the uterine wall. That incision alone is injuring the body. So there's a lot of scar tissue that forms, and you can't prevent scar tissue. Even after one cesarean, you've developed scar tissue because there's so many layers that they cut into before they get to that uterine wall. Now, we also have a lot of nodes that sit in our abdominal area that actually sit and feed, I say feed lightly, the uterine wall as well. So females do scientifically have more nodes and capillaries around our abdominal region. So you think about cutting into that, you're already injuring a really huge part of your body. And you think you've got your digestion there, you've got your excretion organs there. There's
the fascia of the body as well.
And the cisterna which is a really huge aspect of the lymphatic system. So that's when it changes from the upper to the lower part of the body. When you have your groin nodes being affected and your pelvis and all that affected from a cesarean section, that affects all the balance, all the fluid balance then going into the second part of the body. The fluid doesn't know where to go. So it starts to pool around, your lumbar region. So people get the most common thing that I've come out of this reel or this cesarean section on Instagram was, my God, my lower back has never been the same since. And I put it down to pregnancy. Well, our bodies are made for pregnancy. We actually generally bounce back. Mother Nature's kind in that way that our hormones allow our skeletal system to expand and to be very flexible when you're pregnant. So it's essentially more so the toxic fluid causing inflammation, causing pain that's been pooling in that area because it hasn't been able to drain anywhere. And that's years and years of not, having stagnant lymph sit there. So are you
saying that pain from the pelvic region will radiate to your back, and is that what's causing the back pain?
So it's radiated. It's referred, what we call as referred pain. Into the back. Very common in cesarean sections, particularly more than one. If women have had more than one, very common. And hip pain. Not being able to lie on your side for too long. People think it's, I've got osteoarthritis. Scans have shown they haven't got osteoarthritis. They've got fluid on their hips. Why have they got fluid on the hips? Up to 2 cesarean sections, 125 and 130 years ago. Okay. So, it's
what about for older moms? So if you're having a C-section later on in life, will that be much worse, or how does that affect your health? Is it even more difficult to bounce back?
I think if we understand, we can't prevent a cesarean section in many cases. I mean, it's life or death for mother and baby in some cases. I'm definitely not saying don't have a cesarean section because it's going to affect your lymphatic system. It's understanding the post-op, the postnatal, the postpartum care.
Yeah.
Once you have this information, you can actually then help your body recover in a way that we didn't know before. Mm-hmm. Our recovery after having a baby is all about scar and mum and baby. Yeah. Nothing else.
Yeah.
They don't look at anything else. There's no talk about, okay, this is what we want you to do now to maintain your fluid. You've had a really significant operation or surgery. And, when you think about the science of where our nodes and where our flow goes and where our drainage goes, I mean, our groin nodes are the second most important nodes outside of the axillary, mm-hmm. That drain so much of our body, and their pathways are essentially affected when a cesarean section happens. So it kind of it's that aha moment. Mm-hmm. That's why there's so many problems.
How soon
old mothers, younger mothers.
How soon after giving birth are you able to start doing the lymphatic drainage or the dry?
Well, it's all, the dry brushing it should never be done over any wounds or skin abrasions, because you're only going to irritate and you're only going to hurt the skin. So it's whenever you're fully repaired. So
what about nursing? Because during nursing, you have to be careful with releasing too many toxins into the body. Can that affect the breast milk in any way?
Well, not really. No, it can't. Not the breast milk. No, because it's a totally different. The mammary glands are different to where our lymphatics drain. It's case by case, mm-hmm. really. I mean, dry brushing over any wound or any new scar, definitely no. But you can dry brush around. Mm-hmm. You can have a lymphatic drainage massage. Mm-hmm. That's not dry brushing per se.
And it's very gentle, right? It's very gentle.
Yeah, very gentle. And it's, I've always said, I've always been an advocate that any mum should be getting lymphatic drainage after any pregnancy, because we carry a lot of fluid. There's different fluid changes. Our lymphatic system is altered when we're pregnant. Fortunately, in the cases where there's no cesarean, it temporarily malfunctions, if you want to say, but it returns to normal. Mm-hmm. But with a cesarean section, if our postpartum or postnatal care in any age of any mother is not really understood from a lymphatic perspective, or we're going to get issues. Yep.
Very, very interesting. The next question we have: the benefits of pelvic health physiotherapy after C-section or hysterectomy, ways to reduce scar tissue to prevent later damage. I had 5 C-sections and hysterectomy. Best recovery was with pelvic health physio, if that makes sense. Okay. So the benefits of pelvic health physiotherapy after C-section or hysterectomy.
Yeah, pelvic health physio, if I understand that as more skeletal muscle related. Mm-hmm. Lymphatics is different. There's a lot of physios out there that don't still understand lymphatics either. So I'm actually talking to some physios at the moment and introducing them to lymphatic system.
Isn't that incredible? Like, you would think that.
But they're all like, when I found out, was like, oh yeah, why didn't we learn about this stuff? This is just something we should know. And it's like that, oh my gosh, how do we not know this? So the pelvic floor physio is definitely very important for every mother that's given birth to one baby. But that's a different type of therapy that I'm talking about. So lymphatic drainage is, your fluid balance. Pelvic floor and physio would be more around maintaining your muscle tone, maintaining your skeletal muscle tendon,
which is equally important but different.
Equally yes, but different to
a
what
different
I'm referring
approach to this.
Yeah.
The next question we have is: how do you finally get rid of excess belly fat caused by stress? So can stress also be a contributing factor?
Yes, definitely. So I did do a post on cortisol. I used to have very high cortisol for a long, long time, and had some testing done. and it wasn't routine bloods by a GP because my bloods were fine. And as we know, bloods can be fine on a piece of paper, but when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, it's not always the case. We haven't changed our normal ranges for over 30, 40, 50 years. I think the range in blood testing has remained the same, yet our environment and our everything's changed. So it'd be nice if they reassess that. But cortisol, high cortisol levels, if someone's really interested in, they need to find a great naturopath. Naturopaths understand cortisol. Functional medical doctors also understand cortisol. And when I say functional medicine, they are GPs, but they actually understand functional medicine. So you can just Google functional medicine. You might be able to find someone that understands a different approach. So stress, definitely. Yeah.
So the cortisol, so this fat that is caused by stress, that would be more fat. It wouldn't be lymphatic fluid pooling in this area.
No,
that would be more.
Lymphatics, they do have some effect on hormones. They're not responsible for hormone balancing or imbalances, if that makes sense. So that's our thyroid. That's in our circulatory system. So again, different to what I'm talking about. But if someone wants to know, cortisol definitely sets down fat, and particularly in the midsection.
Absolutely.
But if it's a woman in perimenopausal or menopausal, I'd be trying to find a really good doctor to talk about what the hormones are doing.
Balancing the hormones and how to manage stress. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The next question is, can lymphatic drainage be helpful after surgery? For example, after plastic surgery?
Absolutely. Yep. So it's another area of my work trying to get into. There's some amazing plastic surgeons that it's a routine post-operative part of their care. So they have lymphatic drainage specialists, and they make sure that there's scheduled massages after the post-op, particularly with liposuction. It must be done. Tummy tucks, even boobs, it must be done. So post-op care, lymphatic drainage should really be part of every post-operative care.
Yeah,
but I'm working on
You're working on that's fantastic. Now, for example, tummy tucks, very similar to a C-section. Because you're cutting through all these layers and moving things around and everything. So could people have the same issues after a tummy tuck as they would have after a C-section, where they actually end up with a larger belly with all the fluid that is building up?
Not so much a larger belly, but they will have fluid that pulls in other areas, and they'll be thinking, where the hell did that come from? Because the pathways are trying to find another way to get out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's actually some research going on with tummy tucks and lymphatic malfunction and what that looks like. But because we haven't been doing tummy tucks, for 100 years, it's a fairly new part of medicine. That's still working its way, testing subjects who've had a tummy tuck, say 30 years ago versus now, because the procedure is very different. It's supposedly less invasive, but it's still any transverse cut. And when I say transverse, a cut across the lower abdomen, where cesareans you're gonna get the same issue.
What about can liposuction also affect the lymphatic system?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
So that can also cause damage, like irreversible damage.
Yeah. And look, that's the catch-22. We've got a lot of people who are diagnosed with lipedema, which is another malfunction of the lymphatics. And that presents very different to lymphedema. They're curable, or their surgical process in alleviating people with lipedema, because lipedema is very painful, is doing liposuction. So there's this catch-22. Okay, well, I'm going to do liposuction, so my quality of life is going to be better, versus I'm actually impacting my lymphatic system even more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole nother
Wow.
podcast.
A whole episode, a whole other episode.
Yeah.
The next question is, can inversion tables or upside down poses help with lymph flow and detox?
Well, are we talking yoga?
Like yoga inversion, I guess, and you know, there's this inversion table that you can use where you kind of upside. So like being upside down, does upside down help with lymphatic flow in any way? Or is that
Well,
more for circulation?
well, yeah, that's more circulatory. Our lymph needs our lymph. Yes, it's positional in a way that it pulls to the bottom, but if you turn our body upside down, it's not going to move. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does
doesn't
make
have
sense.
valves. The system doesn't have the same backward and forward valve the circulatory system has.
Yeah.
You know, those little valves that go, our lymph vessels or our lymph pathways move one way.
Yeah.
That
So
makes sense.
I guess the most important thing for people to take away from this is that you are the pump. You are in control.
Yeah, you are the pump.
You need to keep moving. You need to do the dry brushing, the rebounder if you can, if you don't have any physical limitations. But you know, walking, moving, leg raise. We're saying calf raises are really important. I've been doing them the whole time while we're talking. I'm doing it at my desk. You guys can't see it, but I'm doing it. Anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners, Kate? Anything else that would be important to pay attention to?
Well, it's essentially just find out a little bit more, because I just want to be able to educate people on that, you know, one little piece, because once you start learning that little bit more and how easy it is to actually do self-care, it's the only system we can actually really do great self-care on and have amazing benefits with. So that little bit, our body is so incredible. I mean, I could talk about it all the time, but our body is been made to repair itself. Yeah. So if we damage it, it goes into repair mode. It wants to repair itself. It wants to work at its optimum. That's just the way we are made. So if you think about giving your body that little bit of time and a little bit of help, it's going to repay you back.
Absolutely. I totally believe that as well.
Incredible ways. And this dry brushing, I can't, you know, everyone's going to be sick of me by the time May's over, but it's just something incredible. And I can't wait to hear what people say after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and go, oh my God, I can't believe that I've seen the change in me. I've actually had no hip pain or my lower back pain after driving to work for an hour, you know, an hour there and out. I've got no back pain. There'll be something that someone will say, and that's what I want to hear. And I want people to just find out a little bit more information, and I hope it resonates, because it's going to prevent some chronic illnesses and disease down the track for a lot of people if you start to understand.
That's super important. And I mean, you know, either you pay now with your time and your dedication to this, or you pay later with your health and doctor. So I always say that. Kate, where can people find you? Where can they find more information? I'm sure everyone's looking for an instructional video on how to do this exactly. How can they find you?
Yeah, well, Kate_lymphatics_simplified is and yeah, I'm trying to come up with that name. You know where I was in my first name. And then I had to change my name. And I'm so glad I did, because I took the advice of a lot of you guys. It was a long-winded name, but it was hard to find something that was really going to resonate with what I do. So a lot of my stuff is going to be on Instagram, and it's still growing. I've got nearly 10,000 followers, which I'm happy about. I never thought I'd get nothing like your amazing work.
That's fantastic. 10,000 is amazing.
Yeah, I'd love if I could get 60 like you. That's 60, you know, we've got millions of people in this world. We just need to teach them that little bit more about our lymphatic health, because it's just so important.
I think you'll get there very, very quickly, because the information you provide is invaluable, and like nobody else that I know is doing this. So it's really, really important. Guys, please run over to Instagram right now and follow Kate. I will put her handle down below as well. Kate, thank you so much for chatting with us. I really appreciate all these. I
Thanks,
learned a
Lynn.
lot, and I'm going to be much more diligent about doing my dry brushing from now on. I promise you that. And I will report back to you at the end of May with some good results, hopefully. And guys, join us on this challenge, right? The challenge is to do dry brushing every day in the month of May, right?
So I've got 3 instructional videos, so lower, midsection, and upper, and people can save that. Go back, just practice your sequence. Doesn't have to be exactly how I've done it, but if just in the right flow, the right sequence, and then show us what you're doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic, guys. And keep us updated and let us know if you had some successes, some changes, if you got rid of pain, you're feeling better, your belly's gone. We both want to hear back from you guys.
This is all free information. I want people just to absorb as much as they can, because it's I want to be treating a whole lot of people with lymphedema and chronic, chronic illness when it could have potentially been prevented.
Yeah. I'm all about the prevention.
And if the surgeons and doctors aren't going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it.
Good girl. Good girl. Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. And we'd love to have you back in the future as well to go down some other rabbit holes. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I appreciate it. See you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.